Welcome to today's Explainer. I am honestly so pumped to get into today's topic, because it touches on something literally everyone can relate to. We've all been there, right? The alarm goes off on a freezing, pitch-black Tuesday morning, your eyes feel like they're full of sand, and you just stare at the ceiling wishing for one impossible superpower. Just the ability to stop time. It's the ultimate childhood fantasy, and let's be real, a huge adult one too. But today, we're going to unpack the source material that totally shatters this cozy little daydream.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider that exact thought. That's probably crossed the mind of every tired student, overworked parent, or just stressed out person in human history. What I wouldn't give to just freeze the world for 2 hours and sleep. It feels so innocent, right? Like the absolute ultimate life hack. Just a completely victimless way to finally catch your breath. But as we're about to see, flipping that switch comes with some massive consequences that basically blow that cozy illusion right out of the water. So put yourself right in these shoes. Imagine you wake up tomorrow, you snap your fingers and everything just stops. You've got a cosmic pause button. The birds are just hanging there mid-flight outside your window. Your coffee is literally frozen mid-pour in the kitchen. Sounds like pure bliss. But there is a huge catch. The source material points out that the universe's source code, it really doesn't like being paused. Reality is fundamentally built on motion. When you stop it, the whole system just instantly starts crashing around you.
Which brings us to Section 1, Physics Crashes, hand-waving the immediate threats.
Now, to even have this fun little thought experiment, we actually have to bypass some absolutely terrifying scientific realities. Because in the real world, hitting pause would be instantly fatal. Think about it. If you pause time, you pause light. Those frozen light photons stop bouncing off objects and entering your eyes, which means immediate total blindness. And it gets worse. The air molecules around you, they stop vibrating. You literally be trapped in this suffocating block of invisible cement, unable to breathe or even move an inch. So actually, scratch that, let's just hand wave that away for this explainer. Let's pretend you've got some magical aura protecting you from these physics glitches, because the long-term horrors are actually way more fascinating.
And that brings us to Section 2, the aging paradox, focusing on your biological clock. So, the crucial point is this.
While the entire world is suspended in this frozen state, your body absolutely is not. You are still moving, still breathing, still experiencing time. And that introduces the single biggest catch of this whole fantasy. Let's contrast the two. Sure, the frozen world just waits for you. You could take a few years of paused time to literally read every book in the library or travel across frozen oceans on foot. But look at the harsh reality of your biology. Every single second you spend wandering around that paused Earth, your cells are dividing, your telomeres are shortening, the cartilage in your knees is wearing down. The universe might be on pause, but your biological clock, it is ticking away loud and clear.
Seriously, just look at this massive age gap, 45 versus 30. Let's say you actually use this power all the time to get ahead at work, to catch up on sleep, or maybe just take a mental health month whenever life gets stressful. Those stolen weeks and months, they compound so incredibly fast. You could easily show up to a high school reunion looking and feeling like a 45-year-old, while all your classmates are just now celebrating their 30th birthdays. No way around it.
And that is the true tragedy here. You aren't getting free time. You are literally trading your own finite lifespan for stolen moments in a totally dead world. Think about it. Every 8 hours you spend sleeping in paused time is 8 hours permanently subtracted from the end of your life. Time you'll never get to spend with your loved ones while they're actually awake. It completely takes this power from a fun life hack and turns it into a genuinely tragic sacrifice.
Let's move on to Section 3, the deafening silence, the sensory void.
Okay, so we've talked about your biology, but what actually happens to the environment when you hit that button? We always imagine this really peaceful quiet, right? But the reality of paused time is this heavy, pressurized, absolute stillness that human brains are just not wired for. We really need to talk about ambient energy. See, we live our entire lives swimming in background noise. The hum of your fridge, distant traffic, wind in the trees, even just the rhythmic breathing of a person sleeping next to you. Human sanity heavily relies on that ambient energy to stay anchored to reality. The very instant you push that cosmic pause button, all of that energy completely drops to absolute zero. And this brilliantly illustrates the completely bizarre physical reality of that silence. It isn't just quiet, it's unnervingly, deeply still. Water drops falling from a sink just hang there in midair like tiny little glass beads. A roaring campfire instantly stiffens into this jagged, solid glass-like sculpture. You could literally walk down to the beach and find the ocean completely devoid of ripples. It would just look like a massive sheet of textured plastic. The whole world turns into a sterile, unmoving photograph.
But here is where the psychological horror really kicks in, the internal loudness. Because when all of the external sound waves of the world just vanish, your brain doesn't just sit back and enjoy the quiet. Oh no. Desperate for any sensory input, your hearing turns completely inward. Without that ambient energy, these are the sounds you suddenly can't escape. The thud of your own heartbeat becomes this rhythmic, echoing drum in your head. The rush of blood pumping through your ears sounds like a literal rushing river. Even something as simple as the friction of your cotton shirt moving against your skin when you walk, it sounds deafeningly loud, almost like someone dragging sandpaper across a microphone. Within just a few hours of wandering through a frozen city, the profound loneliness of that sensory deprivation would become totally suffocating. You could be standing right in the middle of Times Square, surrounded by billions of frozen people, and yet you would be utterly, completely alone in your own private, deafening vacuum.
Let's move to our final section and see how this builds into the collapse of motivation, the existential dread. So this is where we look at what happens to the human spirit when time is entirely at your command. Anyone with this power would inevitably face this massive psychological descent. For the first few days, sure, it's hilarious. You're pulling pranks, taking things from stores, maybe moving people's furniture around. Then, within weeks, you transition into using it for pure success. You become an overnight genius. I mean, you can pause a meeting, spend a week researching a tough question, unpause, and instantly deliver the perfect answer. But give it years, that deep, deep existential boredom sets in. The novelty completely wears off, and the power just evolves into a tool for hiding from reality.
Because the honest truth is, human achievement is driven by friction. It's driven by deadlines and by the very real risk of failure. When you can just pause reality to think over every single minor decision for a week, or literally steal the answers to every problem you ever face, your accomplishments completely lose their flavor. The joy of acing a test or nailing a presentation, that comes from the pressure of the moment. Without the threat of failure, without the pressure of a ticking clock, success literally just tastes like cardboard.
Eventually, you find your entire existence reduced to feeling like a ghost, just wandering through a silent museum of living statues. You're surrounded by people who are technically alive, sure, but to you, they're just props in your own frozen playground. And you begin to realize that the true beauty of life doesn't come from having infinite time to make things perfect. It comes from its chaotic, unpausable momentum. It comes from the messiness of real-time, completely unpredictable interactions.
Ultimately, that cosmic pause button stops being a clever productivity hack. It degenerates into the ultimate hiding place. It becomes this silent, frozen sanctuary that you retreat to whenever the real world gets too difficult, too demanding, or just too loud. You basically end up choosing to grow old in the dark, isolated and totally alone, simply because it feels easier than facing the relentless, messy march of real time.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to take away from today's explainer. Does the beauty of life exist precisely because you can't pause it? You know, maybe the friction, the aging, the stress, and the constant ticking of the clock aren't the enemies we always think they are. Maybe they are the exact things that give our lives meaning, urgency, and real connection. So, the next time your alarm goes off, instead of wishing you could just freeze the world, you might actually find yourself a little bit grateful that the chaotic, beautiful momentum of life is pulling you forward. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep exploring those amazing ideas hiding in plain sight.